Good morning. We are going to talk about Lucy's other half today, Mr. Desi Arnaz. Yes, Desi Arnaz was the first husband of Lucille Ball. Gary Morton was her second husband, and we all know. Did you know Gary Morton married Ava Gabor after Lucy passed? But they only stayed married a couple months. Anyway, about Desi. Desi was born in Santiago, Cuba. Desiderio Diacha Arnaz was his birth name. And he came from a very, very wealthy family, very popular family. His father, I believe, was the mayor, and his uncle was the chief of police. And Desi Arnaz's mother was part of the founding partners of the Bacardi Rum Company. I didn't know that at first, but yes, Desi Arnaz's mother her family were the founding partners of the Bacardi Rum Company. So they were a very wealthy family. They didn't struggle the way Lucy's family did coming up. So, by 17, Desi had maids, horses, girls, you know. He didn't have paper routes and he didn't sell Jet magazines like the rest of us did. But at the age of 17, there was a young man by the name of Fulgencio Batista who led a revolution to overthrow the government in Cuba, in Santiago, Cuba. And they did. They burned down his family home, the mansion his family owned. They put his father in jail, which was very devastating to Desi, very devastating, because he was very, very close to his father. They're a very close family. Even though they were wealthy, they were still close people. Desi admired his dad, and when they put him in jail, it devastated him. He was 17 years old, and that's a hard time to lose your father. So Desi wanted to move to the United States, where some of his family had already came to live, so that he and his mother wouldn't be alone while his father was in jail. But mother said, no, I'm not leaving Santiago with my husband in jail. So whatever it takes, whatever we have to do, I'm staying here while my husband is in jail, and until he's released, I will be here waiting for him. Well, Desi was not about to leave his mother in Santiago, Cuba, alone with his father in jail. So he stayed there, and with no money, no power. He had menial jobs like cleaning bird cages, things that he was not used to. I mean, this is a kid who came from wealth at 17 years old. He had speedboats, speed cars, maids, horses. To go from that to basically broke, is a sacrifice he made because he did not want to leave his mother in Santiago, Cuba, while his father was in jail. Okay, I'm with you on that one, sister. So, when the father finally got out of jail, he didn't want to leave Santiago. He still wanted to stay there. So, of course, mother stayed there too as well. But Desi was not having it. He's not a sit at home kind of let things happen kind of guy, right? So Desi moved to California because his great great grandfather, Don Manuel Arnaz, remember that name? Don Manuel Arnaz, Desi's great great grandfather, was also very wealthy. In the United States, he was very wealthy, not just in Santiago, Cuba. He had restored the wealth to the United States so that when the family did get together, they could move here with him. So Desi Arnaz's grandfather, Don Manuel Arnaz, started buying land in California so that he could restore the family wealth. And what better way to restore wealth but than to own property, even then. So Don Manuel Arnaz bought a strip of land that we're all very familiar with now, although it does not bear a name, Arnaz. It does not have a plaque or anything there for them. That strip of land right now is called the Miracle Mile. The Miracle Mile in the Wilshire District, which is a very, very affluent part of Beverly Hills. Anyway, that land was owned originally by Don Manuel Arnaz. So that whole strip of land, Maestro's, whatever it is, Lowry's, the Miracle Mile, was Arnaz property. I'll tell you something else he owned, because some of you may be sitting there right now and maybe need to pay a rent check to Mr. Don Manuel. Don Manuel Arnaz bought property in the San Fernando Valley, a section of land in the San Fernando Valley that I bet you're going to be shocked to hear. And he bought this property and named a section of it after his wife. You know his wife's name? Go ahead. I know you know. Her name was Mrs. Ventura Arnaz. Yes. Don Manuel Arnaz named his strip of land in San Fernando Valley after his wife, Ventura. And it's still called Ventura today. So, if you're living in Ventura, you're living on Arnaz property. How about that? And that's how you got Ventura, California. Now, Desi was okay with that. That's fine. You can do that. We can do that. But I need my own. So he went to work for Xavier Cugat's band in 1936. He played for Xavier Cugat's band in 1936. That's good. He loved it. Loved the United States, loved Miami, loved New York, loved California, all of that. Because it's very similar to Santiago as far as city life goes. But it only worked for a year. He wasn't happy working for someone else. So in 1937, he started his own band. I almost said the Ricky Ricardo band. It was the Desi Arnaz band, Desi and His Boys, it was called. And he brought Marco. Remember Marco? Marco was actually still with Desi on I Love Lucy. You hear him talking to Marco all the time. That Marco that he's talking about on I Love Lucy is the exact same Marco that he played with in Santiago. He called Marco here from Santiago, brought Marco here from Santiago, Cuba, to be in his band, Desi's Boys, and he sent him to the Juilliard School of Music. You're not just coming here to play, you're coming here to learn. So Marco went to the Juilliard School of Music, graduated, of course, with honors, and they started their own band. Premiering in Miami, Desi and His Boys introduced a dance that I know is still going on today, because at the end of the Long Beach Jazz Festival every year, we would do this. It's called the conga. Yes, the conga and the conga line was introduced in 1937 by Desi Arnaz. And yes, they're still doing it. Oh, I haven't been to the Long Beach Jazz Festival in a while, but I'm sure they're still doing it. It's the last thing we do before they close the show. So Desi moved, to Miami. His band was very successful. Very, very, very successful. And in the meantime, he met a man named Leonard Hart. And Leonard Hart was a producer who wanted Desi to venture out, and do movies. So he brought Desi to Hollywood. And for the movie Too Many Girls. What happened on that set? Come on, Lucy folks. That's when he met Lucille Ball. Yes, he met Lucille Ball. And even though Lucy was dating the director Hal Smith, I think his name was Hal Smith, but Desi was engaged. He was about to pop. He had popped the question. He was engaged with a wedding date set. I don't even know if Chick had bought her dress. But when he saw Lucy, all bets were off. So I'm sure out of all the fans, one fan they don't have is Miss Renee DeMarco, because she got left by Desi Arnaz when he met Lucille Ball. And from that union, we have so many triumphs, so many... I'll call you back, Jamie. So many beautiful things that came from that, including Desilu, 2 beautiful children, so many shows, so many wonderful things. And don't forget Desi Arnaz is the one who found little Ricky, the 5-year-old smallest drummer of the world, Keith Troubadour. And he also hired Ethel. William Frawley just called and asked for the job on the phone, and Desi was like, okay, fine. But Ethel was Desi's choice, and Desi alone. Ethel was actually born, I called her Ethel. Her name is Vivian Vance, Alva. I'm so Lucified. I get the names mixed up, so forgive me for that. Vivian Vance was born Vivian Roberta Jones. That was her birth name. And there's an episode of I Love Lucy where I didn't know this at the time, but I thought it was just, something they just did accidentally, but it seemed to be a faux pas. There's an episode with Aunt Martha's old-fashioned salad dressing. Remember that one? When Lucy called her Ethel Roberta. When the rest of the show, she was Ethel May or Ethel Louise. So come to find out, that's her given name, Vivian Roberta Jones. But Vivian's mother, very, very strict household. Very strict religious beliefs. And as far as my daughter having anything to do with theater or acting, she wasn't having it. She wasn't happy about it. So Vivian would sneak out the bedroom window at night and go to shows and plays and all kind of stuff, so that her mother wouldn't know. Well, mother found out, of course. Mothers always find out. And so what she do? She put a little girl out. I would never do that. You have to support your children's dream. Their dream may not be your dream. Your dream may not be theirs. But anyway, she put her out, or she left, whatever. And she ended up working as a hospital nurse during World War II. And from all the movies you've seen and whatnot, that was very, very traumatic, especially if you're young. You're like 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 25, 26. Working in a hospital during a war, I'm not sure you can prepare for that, especially as a first job. And having those images in her mind, the experience and the things that she saw, caused Vivian Vance, she changed her name to Vance, depression for years. Even as an adult, she was still plagued by those memories, those dreams, those nightmares were just horrific. And they caused her depression even into adulthood. So she had to have a therapist. Actually, Desi hired a therapist to be with her on set of I Love Lucy, just in case Chicky wigged out. But yeah, she was in pretty bad shape, and that's why she used to always say, Vivian used to always say that she believed that Ethel Mertz, the character Ethel Mertz, saved her life because the staying busy with the scripts, working on the show, working with such wonderful people, Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz. She didn't like William Frawley, and he didn't like her, but oh well. The great cast, Jess Oppenheimer, Matt Pudge, the writers were beautiful, beautiful people, and they treated her like gold, and she wasn't being treated like gold, Besides the depression of the memories of working in a hospital during World War II as a child, or a young lady, I'll say, not a child, but a young lady, maybe with a child mind, Ethel Mertz, out of her 4 husbands, that number 3 dude was toxic. And you know who he is because you've seen him. He plays on I Love Lucy in the episode where Lucy goes to the game show. I think it's like Females Are Fabulous, I think was the name of the show. And the guy was going to knock on her door at night, and she was supposed to tell her husband, oh, that's my first husband. I thought he was lost in the war, yada this, yada that. And then the guy, bum beggar, was downstairs, and Ethel ran him away. And then he went upstairs to Lucy and Ricky's house, and Lucy thought he was the guy from the show, but he wasn't. The guy who played the part of the guy from the show was Philip Ober. Philip Ober was Vivian Vance's 3rd husband. He also played Dory Sherry in the episode in Hollywood. That's Philip Ober also. But Philip Ober was married to Vivian Vance as her third husband. They were married for 18 years before she finally booked. But Philip Ober, even though he had his own show parts, roles, small, whatever, he was very jealous, very envious of Vivian's success. And he was very cruel to her. He was very, very, and I hate this, very abusive. He was a very abusive man. How and why you would not revel in your wife's success, I don't know. I don't understand that. But anyway, he was very abusive to Vivian. So, they divorced after 18 years of marriage, and she ended up marrying John Dodd, and she was married to John Dodd, very, 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 very nice man, until she passed away in 1979. Yeah, she died in 1979. I believe it was in November. But anyway, in the early years, she sang on Broadway choruses. Most of her career was on Broadway stage. Her favorite and most popular performance was a Broadway play called Let's Face It. And she did that with Danny Kaye and Eve Arden. And the script was so good that Mark Daniels suggested to Desi and Jess Oppenheimer that they go see her. They were working on casting for I Love Lucy. So Mark Daniels was like, he was the director, and he was like, go and see the play. See if, see what you think, see what you like. I think she'll fit. So Mark Daniels told them that Vivian Vance was going to be at the La Jolla Playhouse, that's here in California, doing a play called Counselor at Law. So Desi Arnaz and Jess Oppenheimer went to go see the play Counselor at Law, and after Act 1, bam, first act, Desi announces, found my Ethel. She's it. That's Ethel. Hire her right now. I don't mess around. Remember Keith Troubadour? He saw him one night, and by the end of that same week, Keith Troubadour was signed to Desilu, and so was Keith Troubadour's father, because that's how Desi Arnaz is. I want loyalty, so I'm gonna hire this. He's 5 years old. He's 5 years old, so he's still under the guise of his parents. So I'm gonna hire your dad too. Yeah, so you're both gonna be under contract for Desilu, and the same thing with Ethel. But well, Lucy wasn't happy about that decision. Not so much that she didn't like Vivian Vance. She liked Vivian Vance. But, this thing's wearing my nerve. Vivian Vance was not who Lucy had wanted. She had decided who was going to play Ethel, and they hadn't discussed it with each other. So, Lucy actually wanted her friend to play Ethel. You know who Lucy's friend was back then? You remember a show called Petticoat Junction? You remember Petticoat Junction. I'm not the only one who remember Petticoat Junction. Anyway, the mom, that's Lucy's friend. Her name was B. Benderet. I can't pronounce her last name, so I will not attempt. Benaderet. Her name was B. Benaderet. But the studio rejected B because at that time, B had some issues, some personal issues. And the studio was worried that her personal issues would interfere with the production of I Love Lucy, and that won't be allowed. So they blew her off. They blew off B. Benedette. And Lucy's second choice was her other friend. Very, very, very close friend. And this has really made Lucy angry because Desi Arnaz was not wavering from his choice of Vivian Vance for Ethel Mertz. He had decided and he had signed the contract. So it was a done deal. So Lucy, even though she was upset, there was nothing she could do about it. And then she had to tell her friends, too, that Desi had already hired someone. And so she told B. Benaderet, and then she had to tell her other close friend, Barbara Pepper. Barbara Pepper was already doing a show. So I guess she was going to leave that show and do I Love Lucy. The show she was on, ladies and gentlemen, George Burns and Gracie Allen. She played Blanche Morton. Barbara Pepper is Blanche Morton on the George Burns Gracie Allen show. She's also the voice of Betty Rubble for the first 4 seasons of the Flintstones. Okay? So it's not like Barbara Pepper was left out. She still had a very successful career, but Lucy really wanted her to play Ethel Mertz on I Love Lucy. So in the beginning, it was very hard for Vivian Vance because not only did she and William Frawley not get along that well, Vivian Vance and Lucy did not get along either because Lucy was upset that she wasn't included. It wasn't personal, but she was upset that she wasn't included in the decision to hire Ethel Mertz. But, I guess once they did spend some time together and work together, but they ended up being BFFs. I know they didn't have that term back then, but they ended up being best friends, real best friends for life. For life. And that's a beautiful thing. Because sometimes you come through triumph to get to victory. Something like that. But anyway, they stayed best friends forever. She kept Vivian Vance close to her. Even after they stopped filming I Love Lucy, she brought Vivian Vance with her to The Lucy Show. Remember? She became Vivian Bagley, keeping her first name. I guess because Lucy kept calling her Viv, so it's like, let's just change her name to Viv on the show and cut to the chase. She also brought her along for Here's Lucy, which came after The Lucy Show. And they remained best friends for the rest of their life. And, it was a tough beginning, but it was well worth it. They were so close, even after all the turmoil of both their lives. Vivian came to see Lucy and wish her good luck when Lucy was opening night for the Wildcat play. Remember that? The Broadway show, The Wildcat. Vivian was there opening night to give Lucy a hug and wish her good luck. So, even though it was a rough start, Vivian Vance, the choice of Desi Arnaz, ended up being one of Lucy's bestest friends for the rest of her life. And right before Vivian passed away, she was in her hospital bed, and Lucy was struggling with the decision to go and see her because it's hard. It's hard to see someone that you're close to struggling in pain. And she probably knew, that Ethel was terminal, that her illness was terminal. So she didn't want to face that. I'm the same way. It's hard. It's very, very hard. And it's a hard thing to live with, and it's a harder thing to get over. Me personally, I never get over things. I just learn to get through things. But when Ethel, I did it again. Lord help me. When Vivian was in the hospital, right before she passed away, she looked up and guess who was walking in the door? It was Lucy. She couldn't stay away any longer. It was Lucy. Just like after Desi and Lucy parted, divorced, and she was married to Gary Morton, they were still friends. They were still friends, and I guess Desi was like, she's a part of my life, my heart, my soul, because he had been there for her through thick, and thin. Remember when the Un-American Committee came after Lucy? Like they were coming after Frank Sinatra, Danny Kaye, Humphrey Bogart for communist affiliations. Like, really? That's all you got. So anybody that's successful, what are you saying? They must be a communist? For real? For real, dude? Anyway, biggest mistake you ever made was coming after Desi Arnaz's wife, because he does not play about his wife. He's one of those guys. And all the ladies know what I mean. He's one of those guys. He's going to stand by. If she burned down a Christmas tree lot, he's going to say the tree was dry. Okay? But these people, Un-American Committee, Ways and Means, or whatever they would call, they're defunct now anyway, they came after Lucy, claiming that she had signed a card for communism. Okay. Well, Lucy and Desi, they don't have anything to hide. And how dare you, first of all. So they were like, let's set up a meeting. Let's talk about it. So they did. They went and they met with the committee, the Un-American Committee, and found out that their suspicions, allegations, everything was unfounded. It was a mistake. It was something that actually Lucy's grandfather had done when she was yet just a child. So you don't have any control over what your grandparents do when you're a child. So anyway, they dismissed the matter, apologized to Lucy and Desi, and said that, forget it. We apologize. Another word will be spoken. Nothing will be published. Forget the whole thing. It's unfounded. And if anyone ever asks, our statement is that the allegations were unfounded, and the end. Because we knew Desi was going to rip us a new one. But something happened, as something always does. That was on a Friday. What is it with them and Fridays? So anyway, Sunday morning, sitting at the breakfast table, having my sausage and my fruit and my coffee and my juice. Open up the Herald Examiner and what does it say? Lucille Ball, a red, right across the front page of the Herald Examiner. See, a red is what they referred to in those days as communists. Lucille Ball, a red. Woo, honey, right across the front page of the Herald Examiner. Not just that. Remember that card that her grandfather had done with Lucy's name on it and the Communist Party? The Herald Examiner printed that card on the front page of the Herald Examiner. Woo-hoo. Now that was a different Desi. That morning. There won't be no more pancakes and sausage and grapefruit and coffee today. I'm furious. We did everything you asked. We did everything we were supposed to do. We presented evidence. You said the allegations were unfounded and this would go no farther. So why am I seeing my wife's name plastered across the front of your newspaper? Okay, I get it. You're a sensationalist. You know Lucy's popular. It's the #1 show on television right now. So her name on anything is going to get you readership. Okay, fine. Sell your papers today. Because tonight, I'm shutting you down. Well, Desi's a businessman. At least we not forget. And he knows a lot of peoples. Okay? He knows a lot of people. A lot of up here people. He didn't call the Herald Examiner. He didn't call the committee. He called his friend from the racetrack. Yeah. He called J. Edgar Hoover. I guess now you would call it his homie. He called J. Edgar Hoover. And J. Edgar Hoover had apparently seen the article. So he may have been expecting a call knowing Desi. Anyway, he called J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover said 2 words. 3 words. That's my Ebonic English. Don't worry about it. I got you. I got you. So, not only did the Herald Examiner have to print an apology, a retraction, and a recipe for chicken and rice, trying to win back Desi's respect and affiliations, but J. Edgar Hoover's on the phone. And he has told us that what we have done was not only illegal, unprecedented, unfair, but it's also untrue. And you need to print a retraction right now. And if we see Lucy's name or Desi's name in your newspaper again, unless it's something, positive about the show or positive about them, you won't have a newspaper. There won't be any Herald Examiner. Maybe that's why we had the Times. Okay, so that's how that happened. Because Desi was the kind of guy who, no matter what was going on, family first. That's the way he was raised. You come after my family, we circle the wagons. My mother used to say that. We circle the wagons. We don't throw our family out. We don't let anybody else throw our family out. Okay? That's how I was. That's how my mother was. Not all of them. But anyway, that's how Desi was. So when they came after Lucy, they came after Desi. And he got it, he had to make his wife happy again. I mean, this is a comedy show. I can't have her crying, and you've ruined my breakfast. This is my Sunday morning. You have ruined my breakfast. So anyway, that's how and why. Lucy was never a fan of the Herald Examiner. Desi was never. I doubt they may have bought it, knowing them. Desi may have purchased the Herald Examiner so he could fire dude coming after my wife like that. But, they worked hard. They worked hard. Desi had a lot on his plate trying to be the president or being the president of Desilu. Being a father, being a husband. It wasn't always, an easy job. He wasn't always successful at it. Nobody's perfect every day. But they ended up divorcing after 20 years of marriage. And it was a painful divorce because according to their daughter, the day that they divorced was the anniversary of the first day of production for I Love Lucy. So it was a bittersweet day. But even through their divorce, they stayed parents, so they stayed, kind of close. She was married to someone else, and he was married to someone else, or, I think he was with Linda by then. But anyway, they kept in touch on the phone and whatnot, and Desi started getting very, very sick, and their children were very concerned. And Lucy Arnaz, their daughter, knew that the one thing that would make her father better would be Lucy. Even though they were divorced, their daughter knew that the love that they shared and the love that they had for each other didn't get divorced. They divorced the marriage. They divorced the wedding. They did not divorce their children, and they did not divorce their hearts. So when Lucy saw the condition of her father, she became very concerned. She became very upset. And she got in touch with her mother. And she told her mother what was going on. And Lucy cried. She cried a lot. Because even though they were not together in marriage, they would always be together as friends. That's how they started. Most good marriages start as friends. They stay as friends. They stay friends even after they're lucky. But this particular day, is that somebody at my house? Okay, don't stop it if you haven't called first. It was bad. Desi was bad off. So Lucy called him. She did. She called him. By that time, they had been speaking quite, kind of frequently on the phone. But this particular day, Lucy Arnaz could tell Dad was in bad shape. So Lucy called. It was a very, very short conversation. I'm going to try to get through this without crying. Their last words between Desi Arnaz and Lucy Arnaz, Lucille Ball, her last words to him were, I love you. I love you, Desi. I love you. Desi Arnaz died 2 days later. So, I'm glad that happened. I'm very, very glad she took the time out. Not just for him and for their children, but for her. Being able to be there for him, to let him know that even in his last hours that the love was still there. The memories of I Love Lucy, the Too Many Girls, all the things that they had built together were still there. And he could be secure in knowing that no matter what, and no matter who. I love you. And that's the last thing he heard. I love you, Desi. Okay. That's it. I'm too full to go farther. So, tell me what you want to hear. Yeah, tell me what you want to hear. You've already heard about Star Trek, The Untouchables, Mission Impossible. You know about the mother-in-laws, right? That's not a Lucille Ball thing. That's a Desi Arnaz thing. I liked the show, short-lived as it was. I liked it. Mother-in-laws was a Desi Lou. I mean, it was not a Desi Lou production. It was a Desi Arnaz production. Desi Arnaz and Desi Arnaz Jr., him and his son, actually. Go back and watch some of those episodes. Really, really funny. You know, back when things were funny without assistance, when you had to be funny. You didn't have a lot of computer antics and whatnot to help you out. You had to be funny on your own, and they were. I thought the script was funny, you know. But that's just me. I love comedy. I love to laugh. I think there's a lot of other things in life that will cause you not to laugh. So when you get a laugh, an opportunity to laugh, don't just laugh, but share it. You may be someone else's opportunity. Take that smile, pass it around, turn someone's sad day into a better day. You may not be able to solve their problems, but you may be the only laugh they get that day. Doesn't cost you a thing. I'm sharing mine. Go share yours. Love you.